a guy got arrested because he had opened a pizzeria with a name that was close to the name of a popular pizzeria. And so he wound up being charged with pizza fraud, basically.
I love that. What are you in for?
Yeah.
I'd rather not say.
Yeah.
I'm Leah Colon, and this is The Zest. Citrus, seafood, Spanish flavor, and Southern charm. The Zest celebrates cuisine and community in the Sunshine State. Today, pizza fraud, fruit used as weapons, and alligators in the fast food drive-thru. For Craig Pittman, it's all in a day's work. Before we jump in, I want to remind you that we are working on our Ask Us Anything episode. So whatever you've been curious about over all these years of listening to The Zest, now is the time. Maybe you want to know if my husband and kids are vegetarians like I am and what we eat at home. Maybe you want to ask our editor, Andrew Lucas, the best audio program for podcasters because you're thinking of starting a podcast of your own. Maybe you want Alexandria Ebron to share advice for becoming a food influencer. You should be following her, by the way, at Allie O'Malley Cat on social media. Whatever you want to know, send your questions to info@thezestpodcast.com. Now, today's show. All right, we are so lucky. We're hanging out with journalist and author Craig Pittman. He has written several books about the quirkier side of our state, and his latest is Welcome to Florida, that's right, WTF, True Tales from America's Most Interesting State. Craig also hosts a podcast of the same name. Now, many of these stranger-than-fiction stories that Craig comes across involve food, so of course we invited him to share a few of his favorite epicurean anecdotes and under-the-radar places to eat around the state.
My name is Craig Pittman. I write about Florida. This is book number 7. It's called Welcome to Florida, or WTF for short. True Tales from America's Most Interesting State. It's a collection of pieces that could serve as an introduction to the 900 new people who arrive here every day to teach them that there's a lot more to this state than just Disney World and the beaches.
For sure. Yeah, and you uncover a lot of the quirky side of Florida.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into.
Yes.
But going back, I think of you as like the Florida guy. Are you from Florida? Where did you grow up? And what are some foods that remind you of childhood?
I am definitely from Florida. So if we get interrupted by a biologist coming in and tagging me, that's why. Because, we're an endangered species. I am from Pensacola. My mom is from Santa Rosa County. My dad is from Jackson County. And we can trace our ancestry back to people who arrived here in 1850 looking for a good deal on waterfront condos. So, I'm from the Panhandle. As I was telling people this morning, I'm from Escambia County where we put scam right in the name. So you're warned. And food that reminds me of childhood, every time I go up to Pensacola to visit my mom, who's turning 91 next month, we have to go out and get some fried mullet. And usually we get some cheese grits to go with it, and there's some hush puppies on the plate too. But it's got to be fried mullet because mullet tastes better, I would argue, than any other kind of fried fish that you can get in Florida. The meat is sweeter, and that tastes like home to me.
Oh, I love that. Okay, well, happy birthday to your mom. That's amazing.
Thank you. And by the way, and I should mention, there's a great quirky story about mullet.
Of course there is.
That in, I believe it was 1919, 2 fishermen were arrested for catching mullet where they weren't supposed to, and their attorney argued, successfully it turned out, that mullet are not fish, that they have a gizzard and therefore are birds.
Wow.
And the judge went with it.
Yeah, let's just go with that.
Yeah.
Too funny. Okay, you and I met when we worked together at the St. Petersburg Times, now Tampa Bay Times, and your wife, Sherry Robinson, worked there as well. Is that how you guys met?
We met at the Pensacola News Journal.
Wow.
She was an intern for the afternoon paper. I was a reporter for the morning paper. And then she went off to the Lakeland Ledger, and then we both wound up at the Sarasota Herald Tribune. And I saw her at the first newsroom party I went to, and my friends that I knew weren't there, so I made a beeline for her because she's the one person in the room I knew. She had a really bad experience in Pensacola and was doing her best to forget it. And I saw her and immediately went over and attached myself to her and started telling her about all the people she was trying to forget because I thought she'd want to know what happened to them. So it was not an auspicious beginning. But we wound up dating and then getting married.
Wow.
And we've been together for more than 30 years now. So
Amazing.
She just can't get rid of me.
She can't. She can't. Wow. You really attached yourself to her.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of journalism happening here. I have a journalism background. Your wife does. You do as well.
Yes.
But people don't think of me or her as sort of the guru of weird Florida or unconventional Florida. So just walk me through a little bit of your journey, how you got here.
Well, it started in childhood. While we would eat breakfast, my parents would be reading the morning paper, and they would often talk about, hey, look at this weird story. One that I vividly remember was about a state legislator named Smokey Peden who was running for sheriff on a Law and Order ticket. And then it turned out that he was financing his Law and Order campaign by selling cocaine. So, he was, I guess, dabbling in the other side of the law before becoming an enforcer of the law. Anyway, he got caught. So fast forward to when I was working at the Times, there was already an effort being put forth by two guys, Tom Zucco and Tom French. Every year they did the Sour Orange Awards, which was modeled on Esquire's Dubious Achievement Awards, to basically say, here are the wackiest things that happened in Florida last year. And I loved it and wanted to get in on it, so I would forward them stories that I saw, and many times they'd already seen them. But when Tom French took a step back from it to go off and win Pulitzers, Tom Zucco took me on as his new partner on it. And so we put together the Sour Orange Awards, and that gave me a good excuse to save all this stuff. And then in 2013, an editor for Slate commissioned me to write a month of blogs about Florida to sort of try to explain Florida. And at the end of that time, she said, this is great. I hope you'll turn this into a book. Well, I did. And Oh, Florida, How America's Weirdest State Influences the Rest of the Country is what resulted from that.
Wow. I didn't know that. Okay, so you've got more fodder than we could ever get to, but
yeah.
I want to hear about some of the interesting food-related stories. I know there are a lot. Actually, I'll tell you, I took my kids to a fast food drive-through the other day, and there was a camera pointed at my car, and I had not seen that before. And I actually thought of you. I was like, oh, I wonder if this is because of the time when somebody tried to put a baby alligator through the drive-through.
It was a 3-footer. He threw a 3-foot alligator through the drive-through window at a Wendy's in Loxahatchee.
Oh my God.
Because he thought it would be funny. And the cashier, of course, did not think it was funny. She exited the window.
Right? Sorry, I need you to pull around.
Yeah, and the Fish and Wildlife Service came, Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission came and captured the gator, turned it loose, made sure it wasn't traumatized, and then using the video from there and a couple other places, they managed to figure out who the guy was and went and arrested him. And he was charged with assault with a deadly weapon, where the deadly weapon was the alligator.
This is like a Mad Lib. Do you ever feel like you could just pick random words out of thin air and there will be someone who's done that?
Naked and machete and yeah.
Fried chicken, I feel like, comes up a lot. All right, so what are some of those other stories that we may not have heard?
It's amazing how many people in Florida try to turn food into a weapon. I'll document them as today in unusual Florida weaponry, a cantaloupe or, people are just very imaginative about, almost anything can be a weapon in Florida. And
what do you think is going on here? Because everybody knows, those Florida man stories. And I do feel like we come up a lot on the late night shows.
Oh, yeah.
What is it about Florida that makes us want to hurt somebody with a pineapple?
I went into this in some detail in Florida. Part of it is population. We were the least populated southern state in 1940. We're now the third most populous state. We got 23 million people living here. Plus, we get 100 million visitors every year. So, and they're not evenly spread over the whole peninsula. They're kind of crammed in that 30-mile wide swath along the coast.
They're all in
Orlando. Or they're along I-4 where all the theme parks are. So you put that many people together in that small a space in that short a length of time, and they're bound to start ramming into each other's cars and chasing each other with machetes and arguing over whose dog pooped on whose lawn. And think about who the people are who are moving here. Like I said, 900 new people a day, and they've got interesting backgrounds, to put it mildly. We've got ex-CIA agents who took over Sanibel because that's where they trained for the Bay of Pigs. and fell in love with the place. We've got uniformed Scientologists in Clearwater. We've got the first Hooters ever opened in Clearwater, and so we've got the Hooters wait staff. We've got monkey breeders, spam kings, strip club moguls, official python hunters, and 29 electoral college votes.
and retired pro wrestlers.
Yes. And I actually checked with the machete distributor. They do sell more machetes in Florida than any other state, which blew my theory that they were giving them away for free at the state line with cups of orange juice. And I have to mention, we are routinely ranked 49th among the states for spending on mental health treatment.
Oh.
So I'm sure that's a factor. And all I can say about that is thank God for Texas.
The alligator through the drive-through window sticks out to me as like quintessentially Florida, but are there any others? I know you have a newsletter that I subscribe to where you're sharing these. I mean, you have the best
5.
You have the best newsletter subject lines of any emails I get. It is clickbait for sure.
I always have a top 5 Florida stories, and I always have more than 5 that I have to choose from. And so I usually find a way to squeeze the other ones in somehow. There was one, you may remember this from the newsletter, where a guy got arrested because he had opened a pizzeria with a name that was close to the name of a popular pizzeria. And he basically made sure that all the tourist hotels got his phone number, not the other place's phone number. And so people were calling up and ordering pizza thinking they were getting it from this fancy place. And instead he was bringing them, crappy pizza. And it would fall apart and smelled bad. And so he wound up being charged with pizza fraud, basically.
I love that. What are you in for? I'd rather not say.
Yeah.
Okay, we've talked some about food, but I'm thinking of also drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Are we drinking more? Do you have any information on this? Is a lot of this happening because people are intoxicated?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Generally speaking, when you see one of those weird Florida stories, you'll see the phrase alcohol was involved at some point. And I try not to make fun of people who have, they clearly have a problem, and they've been Baker acted or something like that. But some folks, you just like, some poor decisions were made.
Yeah. Now, some people might want to sweep these types of stories under the rug because we are the butt of a lot of jokes nationally. Why do you kind of like wave the freak flag for Florida?
I contend that the weirdness that produces all those stories is also a major contributor to our creativity. That it's as a result of that freakiness that we played such a role in influencing the rest of the country. I mean, think about it. The guy who invented the computer grew up here, John Adanasoff. He grew up in Mulberry, of all places, and loved playing with his dad was a phosphate mining engineer, and he always carried a slide rule, and young John would play with his slide rule, and then got an electrical engineering degree at the University of Florida and went off to develop that wonderful device that we all use to, play solitaire on.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I guess it does breed creativity. And speaking of which, we were talking in the office, kind of taking bets. I wonder what shirt Craig is going to have on today. Will it be oranges or flamingos? You've got the flamingo shirt. Why do you always have on some sort of over-the-top Florida getup?
I like tropical shirts. They're very comfortable. I always get the ones with the shirt pocket so I can, tuck something in the pocket. But to me, they're distinctive. It's part of living in Florida. You live in a tropical paradise. Why not wear a tropical shirt? I have to mention this one, though, the flamingo shirt is one that my wife picked out because she has good taste in everything but husbands.
Aw, that's, I guess, sweet. It's like a navy blue with the pink flamingos all over it. And I was kicking myself because I had a shirt with flamingos on it. And I thought, dang it, that would have been perfect to wear today, but I gave it away.
Yeah.
So I'm wearing this is the most tropical shirt I have, and it just has like green and white sort of
nice.
palm leaves.
Yeah.
It's the best I could do. Okay. Tell me about some of your other favorite places to eat around the state. We talked about getting mullet for your mom's birthday. You've traveled all over the state for book tours and speaking engagements and reporting. Tell us about some of those maybe hole-in-the-wall kind of places that we should stop when we're on a road trip.
Well, there was a place up in Apalachicola called Boss Oyster. Apalachicola oysters are, as far as I'm concerned, the best oysters in the world. And there is a piece in here about how the oysters wound up being depleted, and the state stepped in and said, you can't harvest any more oysters for 5 years.
Oh.
So we're waiting it out. The 5 years is up this year. I got my fingers crossed that they'll reopen it. But
okay.
Apalachicola oysters were going all over America, going up to New York. They were being sold to the elite up there, and you could stop at Boss Oyster and just get a dozen right off the boat, and that was awesome. I love Tupelo honey, which is also a pure Florida product from the groves in Weewaa-Hitchcock, or Weewaa as the locals like to call it.
Where's that?
Weewaa-Hitchcock, it is up in the Panhandle. If you ever see the movie Yuli's Gold, it's about Weewaa and honey, and starred Peter Fonda in an Oscar-nominated performance. So that's a great Florida movie that you can check out about a Florida food product. But I wrote a piece in here about Tupelo honey and about how it inspired the Van Morrison song, and even got a shout out on Friends one time.
Wow!
But that the beekeepers of Weewaa have been battling all kind of problems in recent years and trying to deal with it. But they tell you that the best way to sell Tupelo honey, because they actually have a Tupelo honey festival in Weewaa every year, and they say the best way to sell it is to give people a taste.
I'm tasting it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can just close my eyes and, those little paper cups that they give you for samples, I can just see them. We're like putting it on one of those tiny little spoons.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and it's just so thick and sweet. Amazing. So those stories are in your book, Welcome to Florida.
Yes.
Okay.
And because it's pure, it doesn't crystallize if you store it. Isn't that incredible?
Don't they say, I don't know if this is true, but don't they say like honey lasts forever?
If it's good honey,
honey from ancient Egypt. If it's good honey, it's not going to last very long because you're going to eat it.
Yeah, well. Yeah, that's the downside.
Right. Wow. Okay. Now you're making me hungry. All right. You're a Florida boy through and through. It might be asking you to pick a favorite child, but what's your idea of a perfect Florida meal? We talked about the mullet, but give me like the whole meal. Like, what are the sides? What are you drinking?
All right. So the day I got married, I took my groomsmen and we went to this place in Palm Harbor, actually in Ozona, which is sort of a little fishing village that used to be next to Palm Harbor. There was a restaurant there called the Red Row. There were two dueling seafood places in Ozona. One was Molly Goodhead's. That was the place all the tourists went. It was kind of overpriced and the food was kind of eh. And the other was the Red Row, which the locals knew about. And that's where I went. And we had oysters on the half shell to open. And then we had fried mullet with hush puppies and grits, and then for dessert, key lime pie. And, that's that was the perfect meal for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's smart, too, because at your wedding, you don't really get to eat a lot. You're too busy taking pictures.
No, and we had the wedding was catered by the Columbia, which is the oldest restaurant in Florida.
You are so Florida.
Yeah.
Where did you get married?
We got married in the pier, the old pier. Because where else could journalists get married except in an upside-down pyramid?
The pier in St. Pete.
Yes.
That is classic.
Right at sunset. So you could see the sun going down over the water and enjoy the wedding. And then afterwards, we had a big dance party, basically.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
You should have that meal every anniversary. Okay, along those same lines, you live in St. Pete, correct?
Yes.
What neighborhood are you in?
We live in the Old Southeast. We're about a block from Lansing Park.
So what's your idea of a perfect day in St. Pete? Whether someone is new to town or visiting or they've lived here their whole life, you're the guy to ask. So where are you going? You going to a restaurant? What are you doing?
I like going to Boyd Hill. They have a great hiking trail out there, and you can see lots of lots of Florida's natural denizens, including gopher tortoises, who I contend that only another gopher tortoise could find a gopher tortoise attractive, but I like seeing them. That's just me. Used to be you could go see a ball game, although not now. Now that the hurricane ripped the roof off the dome, but that's like 5 minutes from my house. I mean, how convenient is that to have a Major League Baseball stadium right around the corner from where you live?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And it used to be you could get really good food there, too. Atwater's, which was a great soul food place, actually had a stand inside Tropicana Field, so you could get a rib sandwich at Tropicana Field and watch baseball. I mean, what better dining experience could there be than soul food barbecue at a major league game?
That's pretty cool. Dang it. Hurricanes?
Yeah, I know.
So
Messed us up.
now where would you go?
There's a hole-in-the-wall place near the Wildwood Recreation Center, and my wife's going to kill me for mentioning this and letting people know.
I'm so sorry, Sherry.
But it's got great barbecue, and it's only open Friday and Saturday, and that's it. And I mean, just for lunch, that's it. It's like it's open for 2 hours. You'll see. It's just this hole-in-the-wall place, but the parking lot will be packed. There'll be a line. You have to stand in line for at least an hour.
Those are the best places.
Yeah. And then, tell them you want a rib sandwich or you want something else. And then, basically there's no eating on the spot. You have to get it and go. And, oh my God, it's so good. It's just so good.
We had Anthony Gilbert, who reviews these hole-in-the-wall places on, and that sounds like a place he would check out. Or maybe he already knows about it. Do you know the name of it?
I think it's just called the Wildwood Barbecue.
Oh. Very nice.
But nobody mentions the name, and there's no sign out front, which is your assurance of quality.
Yep. Those places are the best.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you find these places? Because everybody wants to have this insider information that you seem to have. Other than spending your entire life here, is there a shortcut to finding these awesome food spots around Florida?
Not really. I mean, but we have a lot of really good food writers in Florida. You're one of them who, they search them out and let you know that, hey, this is worth checking out. I wish I could remember the name of it. There was a place in southeast Florida that supposedly had the best fried chicken in Florida. So I was going to be over that way on a book tour. I think it was for Cattails. So that would have been like 2020 or so. And so I made sure to stop there on my way back home. And yes, the fried chicken was really good, but it was a little disturbing that they had lots of chickens strutting around in the parking lot. I was like, you boys ought to get out of here. I think you're next.
Oh my gosh. Is there anything else you would like to share? This has been such a blast. And people need to subscribe to your newsletter. How can they do that? Let's put a link to your website.
Yeah, link to subscribe, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah,
okay, we'll put a link to your website on our website. This has been so much fun.
Good.
Yeah. Now you got to go through a drive-through and no alligators allowed.
Do not. Yeah. You see, the conceit of this book is these are things that people need to know once they move to Florida. And one of them I would say is don't throw an alligator through the drive-through.
Rule number 1. Okay, Dennis Phillips says rule number 7, don't freak out unless I freak out. But rule number 1 is no alligators through the drive-through.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Good rule. Okay, Craig, thank you for coming. This was a blast.
Good.
Let's do it again soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's have lunch.
You pick the spot. Craig Pittman's latest book is Welcome to Florida, WTF, True Tales from America's Most Interesting State. He also co-hosts the Welcome to Florida podcast, and you can find that wherever you're listening to this podcast. Speaking of this podcast, remember to send us your questions for our upcoming Ask Us Anything episode. You can email us at info@thezestpodcast.com. I'm Dalia Colon. I produce The Zest with Andrew Lucas and Alexandria Ebron. The Zest is a production of WUSF, copyright 2025, part of the NPR network.